Pavo 20 Pro is an extremely capable drone, so much so that this is actually my preferred drone of choice when I'm traveling. But ever since the Pavo20 came on the scene, there were tons of questions whether we can just transfer this canopy onto the Pavo 20 Pro's frame. Well, the answer is still no. Well, BetaFPV has heard our concerns and have released the Pavo 20 Pro 04. So let's open this up and see how it looks. Okay, so here it is, the Pavo 20 Pro 04, and this box looks almost identical to the standard Pavo 20 Pro. Now, this thing here comes in two different versions, both as a plug and play like my version right here, as well as a frame kit if you have all your components. So let's open this up and see how this looks. All right, first thing here is a foam cover. Next, we have the canopy here, which is the special sauce of this whole thing right here. Then we have the drone itself. Pretty nice, very similar to the other ones. Next, we have an LED strip here. Really nice by BetaFPV to actually include this in here. Now, this is, I think, either the green or the blue color. Now, you do have this nice multicolor LED strip here. This is the Nightfire version. And I think this was a limited edition, but this might still be available. We'll see if that's available. Besides that, we have some spare propellers on here. Pretty cool to see that they actually include that. And then last but not least, we have a bag here with some harness, an adapter to go from the actual flight control to your computer so you can connect your drone to Betaflight, as well as some hardware here to actually connect the canopy to the actual frame. All right, so let's take a closer look at the Pavo 20 Pro 04. And this thing looks really familiar, very, very similar to the Pavo 20 Pro. And in fact, it's identical. There's actually no differences here in the actual frame. And that's a good thing because the Pavo 20 Pro is pretty much one of the pilot's favorite drones. It's one of their better flying drones in the BetaFPV lineup. And everything we liked or loved about the Pavo 20 Pro is still on this version right here, including this nice battery strap here, a nice flight controller with a really good tune, and these durable ducts here. So this is a really good ingredient here for a successful drone. Now, what makes this drone here so special is this canopy here, and this was designed specifically for the DJI-04 Air Unit Pro. Now, we saw the air unit, the standard air unit right here on the Pavo20. As I said before in the introduction, a lot of guys wanted to just put this onto the Pro version, but the lines just don't align. This is good only for the actual Pico and the standard Pavo20, not the Pro version. Now, when you compare the new canopy to the one on the standard Pavo 20 Pro, you can see that this one here is a little bit bigger, a little bit beefier, and therefore more durable. But with the increased durability comes increased weight, and the overall weight of this new Pavo 20 Pro 04 is around 7 grams more compared to the standard Pavo 20 Pro. Not a much, especially when you compare these are bigger propellers on here, you're not gonna really feel that weight. Now, if you really wanna compensate for that, you can just omit installing the LED strip, which is around 5 grams as well, and you'll have the same weight as the Pavo 20 Pro with the 03 on here. So not a big compromise on here, and that's what we'll do today. We'll just leave the LED strip off and take this for a flight. So having said that, this drone here should fly almost identical to the Pavo 20 Pro here. If you want to see a full review of the Pavo 20 Pro, I've done reviews on this twice, maybe 3 times if you include the standard Pavo 20, and I'll leave that video linked above and below so you can take a look at it. There's all the details about this drone, all the specifications about the motors, flight controller, and how to actually set this up. Now, if you're interested in this drone or this video as a whole, you know that you'll need a DJI-04 Air Unit Pro to make this whole thing here work. Now, BetaFPV does not include this as a bind and fly. You'll have to source your 04 Air Unit for yourself. Now, I have mine right here taken from another drone. I've done a full review on this 04 Air Unit Pro, and it is pretty cool. It does live up to the hype. It's actually smaller than the 03 and actually lighter than the 03 as a whole, yet delivers more performance. So this is a really good recipe for the Pavo 20 Pro. It's the same reason why everyone's been asking for this canopy as a whole. Now, having said that, you can actually source this canopy for yourself if you already own the Pavo 20 Pro. And this thing is around $5 to $7. So I'll leave that link down below as well if you're trying to get this for your drone specifically. So let's get this thing here installed. And the installation is very simple. It's as easy as just putting this into this space right here. This is made specifically for it, and it just clicks into place. Now I'm just gonna put the antennas facing the rear right here. Just putting this area in here and put this forward, and it should just snap into place. Just make sure this cable isn't being caught. And there it is, it kind of snaps into place. pretty easy, guys. Now the antennas are pretty simple as well. There's some slits or some slots already in here, so you really don't have to disconnect the antennas from the air unit, which is a time saver. Really amazing. So we're just gonna bend this wire here a little bit, and you can actually cross them if you want to, and that fits very nicely. Do the same for the other side, and it fits in there. I'm just gonna tuck these wires in here so it doesn't get in the way of the props or anything. There it is. It looks pretty good. Now, the last thing here is the camera, and this one here is not too bad. We have these holes specifically for the 04 air unit. I have some screws already in here, but I do suspect they're gonna be too long, so I'm just gonna remove them. Now, DJI gave us a pretty long MIPI cable here for our camera, which is good. This is gonna be very versatile for multiple drones, but cable management here is very crucial, and it's to your best ability to just kind of twist them and wrap it in here. And that's going to prevent it from getting caught into propellers, as well as not introducing vibration going to your camera, because this thing does have gyroscopes in them. And then we're just going to match these holes up here with these holes and use the provided screws. Sweet, this is the perfect length for it. All right, we're not going to over tighten them because you want to have some adjustability on here. Oh man, you get a lot of adjustment. This is more than 45 degrees for sure. And this is a fast drone, but I don't think you need that much tilt on there. All right, the canopy is set and secure, guys. Look at this. This looks really amazing. Let's prep the drone for the canopy. And what we're talking about here are these gummies right here. They're actually included with the package. And we're gonna use 4 gummies here, include that and insert them into these holes right here. Make sure you have the taller part facing up. Now these are usually a pain in the butt. Boom, 4. All right, this thing here is prepped. We're gonna put the bolts through here. Let's see if they stay in there. Sometimes they have a tendency to slip out, but all right, guys. So before we put this on here, I wanna connect the actual connector for the VTX. This gives you power and information, and it's unfortunately tucked under here. Wow, not the most convenient place to put it. So this should go right here. All right, it went in. It was, I won't say easy, but it wasn't hard either. Dude, the Pavo20 Pro is it's the right size of drone, guys. I can't even lie. Everything just is easy to work on. It's capable. It doesn't even seem too heavy. In fact, we're gonna wait right now. Hopefully it's around 71 grams. All right, 107 grams, not too bad. That's with the 04 Air Unit Pro. So I'm sure without the 04 Unit Pro, it'd be around 71 grams, but I didn't wait before then, so we'll never know. Having said that, let's weigh this compared to the 03. So 106, 107, and here's the 03, the Pavo20 Pro without the 04 air unit. 114, not bad. So this is actually heavier still, but I do have the 5 additional grams because of this LED strip. I said it did weigh 5 grams. Not a pretty crazy compromise. So technically you could put the LED strip on there and still come out lighter than the previous version of this. But take a look at this. This thing looks amazing. I mean, you can compare the two. This drone here is ready for flight. Now, if this is your first 04 Air Unit Pro, you will have to activate and register this device right here, as well as bind your drone to your controller. This is a new drone for me, so it's not bound to my controller, so I have to do that. And then we should be good to go. So let's take this for a flight, and I'll give you my final impressions. we're back from our flight test, and the Pavo20 Pro 04 did an amazing job. Now let's start off with flight characteristics. Now, I knew that the Pavo20 Pro flew very well, but I don't remember flying this good. This thing is an amazing flying drone, guys. Now this thing also flies really fast. Now I do have my tilt on my camera here a little bit higher than normal, but this thing has really good high-speed characteristics. Usually with these ducted drones, if you go really fast, you'll see some vibrations and some wobbles in there. And there's just a few on there, especially with the unstabilized footage. But this thing here is smooth, guys. I do think it's the same tune, but it flies really good. Now later on, I did some more aggressive maneuvers, like some light acro, and this thing handles it like a champ, guys. Even with some really long and high dives, no wobbles, and that's usually a characteristic of these drones with whoops and these ducks here. These things will have some kind of a washout, but it did the dive all the way down. Now, having said that, the winds today weren't really calm. We're talking about winds between 10 and 15 miles an hour. So for a drone this small, this light to handle that dive pretty well, it's an amazing task. But what can I say, guys? It's the same drone as the Pavo20 Pro. This is just the 04 version, so it should fly just as well as the previous drone. So overall, the flight characteristics on this drone is amazing, guys. And this is, if you haven't flown one of these, it can really surprise you guys. This thing really exceeded my expectation when it comes to the flight characteristics. Now, as far as flight time with the Pavo20 Pro 04, using the recommended 550 milliamp hour 3S battery, I got around 5 minutes of flight time, which is pretty on par with the other versions. Not bad considering how fast I was actually flying this drone. So with the speed that I was flying this thing, 5 minutes is pretty impressive. Now, if you're doing some regular slower flights, you'll get probably 30 seconds to maybe a minute more, so around 6 minutes of flight times. I did also fly this thing pretty aggressively doing some acro maneuvers, and I did average around 4 minutes of flight time, so 1 minute less. But overall, the flight times are pretty cool. You do have this nice battery strap on here, which I love to see on these drones, so you can accommodate different sizes of batteries with the Pavo20 Pro 04. Okay, let's move on to visuals, which is probably the most important part and probably why you're watching this video, seeing how this thing here turned out. Now, as far as the hardware, this thing looks really nice, guys. It's a very attractive drone. This new cage or canopy here is made very, very well. It's very secure and sturdy on here. But besides that, this thing interfaces very well with the drone. You do have this harness here that plugs right into the 04 air unit, and that's pretty much a plug and play situation. Even the flight control is set up already for the 04 air unit. So there was no tweaking, just put the OSD where you wanted it and you're good to go. As far as this cage here, it does provide a lot of angle on here. As you can see, I'm still rocking looking around, what was that, maybe 30 degrees of angle on here. And it can go pretty high. As far as the protection for the camera, this canopy does a really good job. I wouldn't say it's a really high protection canopy. I'd say probably put a UV filter on here to add some added protection to this camera on here. And BetaFPV does offer those ND filters as well as UV filters for the 04 air unit. Now, as far as the actual image on here, I kind of hinted to it earlier. It was perfection, guys. The image was smooth, like silky smooth. Like you wouldn't believe that you were using a 2.2-inch drone to get those images, guys. So I don't know if it's just this grommets on here, or just the DJI 04 air unit as a whole, or just these motors, the tune on here. There's very limited vibration, but this thing delivered a really silky smooth image. Now, I did fly this in the wide field of view, obviously to generate the gyro information, and I did stabilize this in gyro flow. Using that, I didn't see any ducks in my image, both in the goggles as well as in the DVR. So that's pretty cool. Once I did put it in gyro flow, guys, it was straightforward. I didn't do much tweaking to it, and it just works, guys. The image is so smooth, guys. It's kind of shocking how good it did. And as I said before, guys, the winds weren't that low. We're talking about 10 to 15 miles an hour. Now, as far as the image quality coming from this drone, well, it is the 04 Air Unit Pro, and this thing does deliver really high quality image. This thing does really replace an action camera. But I did fly all of my flights at 4K at 60 frames per second, and I did fly using the flat color profile. Now later on I did grade that, and to me you can get the most out of this sensor here by flying in the flat color profile. Now the only thing is that maybe my saturation is a little bit too high, so maybe next time I'll probably lower the saturation on this camera here overall. But The image is really good. The colors are very good. Obviously, flying in the flatter color profile, you get a lot more dynamic range. Although this didn't have really any issues with dynamic range overall to begin with, even in the auto mode. But to fly this thing, even in the flat color profile, you'll get even more dynamic range. And this thing looks really good, guys. This is what, but here's the thing about, I laugh about this only because this is what we were waiting for, right? Once the 04 air unit dropped, at least the Pro model dropped, everyone was asking, can we get a cage? Can it fit on the Pavo20 Pro? And here we have it right here. So this is what we've been asking for a long time. And obviously, I think BetaFPV did a good job. I don't know if it was a lot of research or engineering involved, but they did succeed with this cage on here, and the image it turned out very, very well, guys. Okay, so overall, what do I think about the Pavo20 Pro 04? Well, I do think they have a winner on their hands here. They've kind of just improved on a good product. I do think that this is one of their better flying drones overall, and to add 04 on here is just icing on the cake here. You have a very capable drone here. It's lightweight, obviously under 250 grams. It's light, it's quiet, it's very compact. It's not as big as some of their other drones. So this is a very stealth and capable drone. But the best part is that this thing flies really great. You have the 04 on here, so a really good image quality. And this thing can be stabilized and get really smooth cinematic images. So if that's what you're looking for, the Pavo20 Pro might just be for you. Now, if you're looking for a larger drone, something that can carry maybe a naked action camera, then you probably need something like this. This is the Pavo25. I've done a full review of this one, and I'll leave it linked above so you can take a look at it. So thanks for watching, and I'll see you in the next video. Peace.